Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. You know, last week and a couple weeks before, we've been talking about inspirations and what our inspirations are and what they mean to us. And yesterday, one of my inspirations passed away. Carl Weathers of Rocky fame. He also played Chubbs in Happy Gilmore. He passed away yesterday. He was 76, and I love the Rocky movies. Love them. I absolutely love the Rocky movies. Rocky, the character, is a huge, huge inspiration to me growing up. And Carl Weathers as Apollo in Rocky 3 especially, he was that character for Rocky, and he was inspirational in that movie. And I got a lot of inspiration from Happy Gilmore as well. Tap it in. Tap it in. Give it a little tappy.
Yeah.
Taparoo.
Did you know that I had never even seen any of the Rocky movies until we met?
I can believe that because I think the first one was 1976.
Like I had
if
heard.
I remember correctly.
I'd heard of it, and I remember in school having to sing "Eye of the Tiger," and all the kids were like, "Oh, it's from Rocky," and I'd never even seen Rocky.
Well, I'd not seen the whole series growing up. I didn't see the first Rocky until I was in high school. But Rocky 4 was one of my favorite movies. And in that movie, he had a lot of musical inspiration from, I think the 80s was the music back then, and I listened to the whole soundtrack and I loved it. And the story itself resonated with me, and it's even more pertinent nowadays, with the news of the stuff going on over in Russia and in Ukraine, and stuff like that. And some of that storyline is really relevant, especially the ending when Rocky says, in here there were two men killing each other, but it's better than 20 million. And he's right. 2 million. Maybe that's what he said. I don't know.
We'll fact check.
Yeah. But it's an inspirational story. It was meant to be an inspirational story, and we lost Carl Weathers earlier last week, and so that's sad. He was 76, so he was getting up there in age.
I thought he was older, though.
I thought he was too. But as soon as I saw that, I thought, well, I thought he had passed away once before. You know how they have those Hollywood actors, that I have to fact check when I come across something like that, and I have to see it from multiple sources. And ironically, TMZ is one of my sources. Even though, even though they are a tabloid.
Because when I think of TMZ, I think of the National Enquirer.
Yeah, kinda, but they are dependable. That Harvey fella, I think he's the owner of TMZ. That guy in the newsroom, Harvey. I think he is the owner of TMZ, and he runs a pretty good ship. And they do a lot of those UFO shows I like to watch, and so there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, because, National Enquirer was always, when I was a kid, posted about UFOs.
Yeah, but I loved those, the Sun, the National Enquirer, all those tabloid magazines. My grandma used to read those, and she used to pay, and so she had a lot of them at her house. And so when I'd go visit, I'd take like 10 of them home.
She'd never know they're gone.
No, she knew. She'd let me take them. But the one thing I couldn't take was the J.C. Penney's catalog, because you only got one per year or something.
Yeah.
I think you used to have to pay for that thing. I don't know.
That was the highlight of going to my grandparents' house, is looking at the JCPenney catalog.
That was so cool. And they're starting to bring out some of that stuff again nowadays. We're getting the Amazon catalog, which is kind of neat. We don't really use Amazon during Christmas all that much because we like to know what we're buying. And sometimes with Amazon, you just don't know. And so... Yeah, I enjoy those catalogs that
Rocket
they send,
does.
and
Rocket steals them from us.
Oh yeah, he steals all our mail from us. To be fair,
Yeah,
As soon as I come in the door, he's like, my mail? It's funny. But, it's been a long week, a really long week for me.
Yeah, it was a long week.
It wasn't terrible. The weather was great.
I think that's why it was a long week, because the weather was pretty decent.
Well, most of the day yesterday, I was just kind of slinking around the house, and it did warm up till like noon. But I was just kind of slinking around the house, not doing really much of anything. And I feel like that's the way it's been for like a month. But
Yeah. Well, so you always ask me about my daily shenanigans and how my day starts and what I do all day. And, every day I get in the car, you're like, how was your day? And so I want to know about the life of a stay-at-home dad and how you spend your typical day.
so you want to know what a day in my life would be like?
Right.
A stay-at-home dad.
I mean, because I kind of know some, but I'm sure there's some stuff happening that I don't know about. And
Usually I tell you about most of everything that happens because, when you do get off work, one of the first things I ask is, how was your day? And I ask that not because I'm really interested, but because I'm interested in you. And, the things that come next are the things that you care about. So I know that to tune in and pay attention to those things. But a day in my life, let's see. Well, I want to exclude kind of like the last month here because I've not been in my normal routine this month, and it's really kind of been crappy to deal with. It really has. But a day in the life of me before this month, we'll just say before Christmas, I would get up at 6:30 in the morning. You'd wake me up, because I don't wake myself up because I sleep with headphones that don't turn themselves off. So, and I'm going to have to fix that one of these days.
I mean, is that even an option?
And not with these ones,
Oh.
but I can get different ones.
Oh.
But 6:30 in the morning, I get up, and the first thing I do is kind of stretch a little bit, and I go out and smoke a cigarette. And
Run around like an old bear.
yeah, grunt and growl and kind of get myself woke up. I got a lot of back problems, so it's sometimes hard to get limbered up in the morning. But
Try not to trip and kill yourself on your cord to your BiPAP machine.
yeah, that's difficult sometimes. It wasn't that difficult before we had a bed, but we got a new bed that doesn't sit on the floor, and so we have to do adult things and keep things off the floor. But so I go out and smoke a cigarette, and then I come in, and it's time for everybody to go to work and school. And of course I have my coffee. I always like to have a moment to enjoy some coffee first thing in the morning because it helps me wake up, helps me get going. And then after that, we all load in the car around 7:00, and then I drop off the middle son at school, and then I drop you off at work, and then me and the youngest come back home. And, usually he's still awake, and it's like 7:30 in the morning.
He's ready to party.
Yeah, he's ready to party already at 7:30 in the morning, and he doesn't eat breakfast much. So we'll come in, from the car, and sometimes it's cold because it's winter. Sometimes it's warm. But over the last couple of years, he's been going to school in the middle of the day. And so I don't have much time in between the time we all get up and he's got to go to school. And so that's the time I like to do my chores, or what I call my choring.
I don't like you referring to them as chores. It's not like somebody's making you.
Well, I mean, what would you call them? Because it's more than one thing that I have to do right? So what would you just call it, cleaning? Because sometimes I'm not cleaning.
My activities.
Okay,
So many activities.
So many activities. So we'll call them activities for your comfort. So
I mean, if you want to call them chores, but it makes me feel bad when you call them chores,
Why?
like I'm assigning them to you.
oh, okay. Well,
Like
we'll come up
mom
with
assigned me chores today.
we'll come up with a different word then, because I don't want to make you feel bad. Because like literally, I don't do much. But so anyway, so between 7:30 and 11:30, that's what, 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have 4 hours to do pretty much whatever I need to, house-wise, cleaning-wise. But I do laundry, fold laundry. I haven't been washing the dishes the last, I don't know, year or so. And I don't know why. I just don't like washing dishes. But you don't seem to mind it. So.
Well, and they haven't been too bad with, the oldest isn't here all the time.
Yeah, and
so-
we try to use paper plates a lot.
Yeah.
We've
nice.
hit that direction in our adulthood where, if somebody dirties a plate, we get
Angry?
not angry. I get anxious. Look at all them dishes over there.
And just so everybody knows, like we literally have like 4 of everything, like 4 plates, 4 cups,
Yeah,
4 bowls.
And whose fault is that?
That's mine. I did that on purpose.
Because you wash the dishes.
Because you know what? If you're going to go in there and dirty plate after plate and bowl after bowl and, get a new bowl for every little snack you get. And
So
can do a
basically,
dish.
because our children are lazy, we punish ourselves. So, but, the reason why our children are lazy, because it's our fault. So, there's that.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I have 4 hours in the mornings to do pretty much whatever I need to do that I can get done with Rock at home, like dishes. I don't do dishes often, but that would be the time that I have to do it.
I'm pretty sure if the dishwasher worked, Rocket would help with dishes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm quite positive on
Because
that.
he likes the dishwasher.
We'd also have some broken dishes, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably.
But I don't mind. He'd be learning. So
Teach him early.
absolutely, we teach him how to load that dishwasher. I'm sure we could teach him how to do laundry. He loves to vacuum. He loves to help.
Yes, he likes getting clothes out of the dryer.
And so that leads, I can't vacuum when he's home. And that's one of those
'Cause he
things I
wants to
can't do.
vacuum.
Yes. That's one of those things I can't do while he's here during those 4 hours. I can't vacuum because when I vacuum, I like to move all the furniture. I like to, even if I vacuumed just yesterday, I still move all the furniture and vacuum underneath it and everything.
Well, it's because we live with a bunch of wild animals that just throw stuff everywhere,
Yes.
like monkeys.
Yes, and it doesn't take that much time to move the stuff out of the way and put it back because we don't have a big house. It's not that hard to clean. So I like to take that time and do those things in the morning, and I like to just kind of do dad things in those 4 hours. Get things prepared for the week ahead. Wind down from the week before. Especially if it's like a Monday and everybody's going back to work and school on a Monday, the weekends are pretty chaotic around here for me.
Yeah.
And so about 11 o'clock, we'll start getting ready for school, and which sometimes is a pain in the rear now. Rocket doesn't like to go to school, not because he doesn't like school. He's fine once he gets there, but it's getting him away from his comfort zone at home. Yeah. And I don't want to go to school today. Yes, you love school. Let's go. So it takes a little bit of trying for a moment to get him going sometimes. But about 11 o'clock, we get ready for school, and then I take him to school. I drop him off at 11:45. So between the hours of 7:30 or 7 and 11:30, I'm pretty busy, but not busy. But from the time I drop the little one off at school till the time he gets out of school, that's my time. I usually work, or I'll go hang out with a friend during that time, or I'll have appointments, or somebody will need something done. That happens a lot.
Need a ride.
Need a ride, need to, take this to someplace, or, our parents call us. Sometimes my dad's got doctor's appointments that he's got to go to, and your mom's got doctor's appointments. Somebody needs to take some piss to the hospital. That happened recently. I can't.
Yes, I took a jug of my mom's pee
I
to the doctor.
couldn't believe that. And then she went shopping that same day. Like, she called you and she's like, "Are you going to come get this urine and take it to the doctor? Because I'm going to go with so-and-so and go shopping." And I was like, she can't go to the doctor to take her own piss, but she's going to go shopping with a friend.
Well, and I think that her thought process was, oh, like I'm, I work there, and so I can drop it off when on my way. And so, but the funny thing about that whole thing was I was in the elevator going up, and here I have this bag. And I mean, like, if you really look at it, you can tell what's in it.
Yes.
I mean, everybody knows that jug.
Especially at the hospital. Yeah.
And I seen somebody I knew on the elevator that I hadn't seen in a while. And they said, "Oh, what area do you work in now?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm still in the same area. I'm just taking my mom's pee to the doctor." And they were like, "Oh," like, well, that sounds interesting. But yeah, they said, "Well, good luck." And so, but it got there safely.
Safely?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I just think it's weird. I don't know. But I have appointments during those times. Sometimes I don't like to make appointments for myself during those times because I can go after everybody's out of school, 3:30, 4:30, somewhere in there. I can go to my appointments after everybody's done. I like to have that time that everybody's away from school or away at school and work to work on my stuff. And which is why it took 3 years to put this stuff together, is because it's a one-man show around here most of the time during the week. And that's what takes forever to put some of this content together is, you have to, not only do you have to edit it, you also do all our descriptions. You produce for us pretty much. So you have a lot on your plate. But before we started recording and everything, all the creative stuff, all the purchasing and getting stuff lined out that needed, like equipment and stuff that we had to have, like these things were really hard to find. I wanted a certain type of mic boom so that I could take them on the road with me if I needed to, and they could be standalone. We wouldn't need a table to have them or anything. And so I wanted to get special ones. These were actually quite a bit cheaper than the regular ones. But stuff like that I had to do during those 2 to 3 hours during the day. And that's what it took a long time to get that stuff done because it was a one-man show at that time. And I was having to deal with money issues and
a baby
and creative issues, creative clogs is what I call them.
Well, and we had COVID going on all at the same time too during that.
Oh, I lost my mind a little bit during that time. Oh, it was rough. One of these days we'll have to get into what it was like for you dealing with me during that time, because wow, I can remember a lot of things, but it was so bad. It become like every day was exactly the same, literally. And it was terrible for me. And I ended up going on vacation by myself. So, that was weird, but also very much needed. But, so during those 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours, I get a medium amount of stuff done. And then it's time to pick everybody up. So I spend the majority of most of my day in the car. And if I'm not driving to and from, I'm sitting and waiting. And so Rocket gets out of school at 2:45. So I actually, Rocket and Sully get out at the same time. And thank goodness they're just right up the hill from each other. But so I go pick up Rocket, and then I go pick up Sully, and then I come pick up you. And then it's time to come home and bask in the chaos for a couple hours, and then we go to work. And it does get hectic around here, and it's not really exactly quiet during the day when nobody's here because Rocket is active all day long and he's loud. But it's not chaotic. It's just me and him most of the time. And then when you throw you, Sully, and sometimes Caleb in the mix, there's a lot of sounds going on all at once, and it's overwhelming sometimes.
Well, and like, I can only imagine you getting overwhelmed because I know, like, sometimes when I come in the door, like, say I took the car and I went to work, but then I come home and I'm bombarded by everybody. Mom, what's for
Right.
dinner? I don't know why I hear what's for dinner as soon as I walk in the door at 3 something in the afternoon.
Yeah, and they've already asked me twice.
And then I, like, poor Caleb, like, if he asked me, he gets a death stare because I'm like, you should know better. Like, you should know better for that than that question come out of your mouth.
Right.
You know? Like,
Well, it is
like, it's going to be food. That's what it's going to be.
it is overwhelming to the degree that it's a lot to process all at once. So most of the time when that happens, we've got one kid talking, one kid demanding things, and then we're trying to talk to each other.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't work right, and sometimes that irritation surfaces and we lash out at one another. Usually that doesn't happen too often. We usually grab the kids and say, would you knock it off? I just got home. Stop. And usually, that works, but
Yeah.
until we hit that point, it's like they can't see it.
Well, and then, like, Sully, he'll just be, like, pacing in the kitchen, like, waiting for a moment. It's like, okay, is she ready for me to ask her
Right.
this question? That you...
And you look over at him and you feel terrible because it's been 15 minutes and it's killing him to keep his mouth shut. And he's got to talk or he's going to explode. And it's not like we've told him to be quiet.
Yeah.
It's just leave us alone for a moment. So we never told you to be quiet. We never told you to, that you had to stay in one spot or sit down or anything. Just don't talk to me for a moment because I just got home or I'm overwhelmed. And it's very simple to explain that to your kids. Like if you're irritated and you don't know why, or you just feeling overwhelmed and you're about to freak out, explain that to your kids because they're more sensitive to that than like, or can appreciate. Like our 13-year-old,
14.
He's 14. Jeez. I do that a lot.
Yeah. 14.
2009. But it doesn't take that much effort or energy to say, I'm overwhelmed. Please stop. It doesn't take much. And at that point, you're not yelling, screaming. They don't. When we get overwhelmed and we don't explain to them that we are overwhelmed or they don't understand what's going on in the moment, it's difficult for them to process why you're screaming, why you're yelling, or why you're mad. And most of the time, I'm not even mad. It's just irritation or overwhelmed. And I don't know exactly what's going on or why I feel that way, but I try to explain that as best as I can to the people around me so that they know what's going on. And then they know what my thought process is, especially if I don't know what's wrong with me, if I don't know why I'm irritated. I like to share that with everybody because maybe, you can help me snap out of it. Like the other day when we were riding in the car and my friend Benson came into my head, just like that time, I didn't know why I was angry or why I was upset, or I wasn't even angry really. It was just, I was in a mood.
Yeah.
And thinking about that one subject brought me out of it.
Yeah. Thinking the other day, like talking about, Sully always asking what's for dinner. Do you know that they go to lunch at 10:45?
I did know that, and I thought that was really, really early, but at the same time, they have a lot of kids that they got to get in there.
I know, but I said, you eat lunch at 10:45? He's like, yeah, till like 11, 10 or something. I thought, well, No
Yeah.
wonder why you're starving by the time you get home.
So before he switched schools into middle school, it wasn't much better. It was 11 o'clock at his grade school. So they ate at 11 o'clock, which, I mean, isn't bad if you're not having breakfast, but that kid had breakfast every morning.
Yeah.
So
Now I know why he like hoards stuff in his bag from breakfast.
it's because he's not hungry when they feed him. So yeah, I totally get that.
But so what would you say during your day, like say that 4-hour period from 7:30 to 11:30, like what is some of the craziest things that may happen during that time? It doesn't have to just involve you or Rocket. It can involve like other family members.
The other day, I was outside smoking a cigarette.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Or the neighborhood, I guess.
The other day, I was out there smoking a cigarette out front, and I came back in, and when I came back in, I heard this god-awful noise coming down the street. And so I went back outside. I lit up another cigarette, and there's this cart driving down the road. And we live at a dead end, so there's only one way in, only one way out. And at the end of our dead end, there is a pit.
Yeah,
Is no other way to say it. It's just a pit. At the bottom of the hill, there's gravel and there's ditches from runoff and just holes everywhere. It's a mess.
And it's our entertainment in the winter months in the snow because we watch cars fly down the street.
Right.
And then hit that pit and can't get out.
I've seen a car go airborne in that pit. Oh my gosh. So anyway, the other day the god awful noise started, and so I went out there and smoked a cigarette and I was watching, and they were at the end of the street turning around went in that big old pit and then came back out. And then as they were driving up the road, I looked, one of their wheels is missing. And I thought, what the hell?
Do you think they lost it in the pit?
No,
Oh.
it was like that before
when
they came down.
Oh, because I was like, maybe they lost it.
It looked like I don't know. It looked like they were living in their car. And if they're listening to this, I apologize. But that's what it looked like. It
What kind of car was it?
It was an SUV or a crossover, and it was full of junk, is what it looked like to me.
How are they even able to drive with just...
I don't know. I have no idea. They may have been looking for a place to hang out for a minute while they changed the tire and everything. But,
Like,
you
how
know,
do you
of
even
course, you're
drive
not
on
going to
that?
find that at the end of the hill here. But it was just one of those wild things that you see, well, kind of like the car chase that went in front of the house.
Yeah.
That was pretty wild. But like we live at the end of a dead end road, and
In
we've
very
seen a police
quiet neighborhood.
yeah, we see a police chase right in front of our house, and they went through the park, and it was one of the craziest things that we had seen up to that point. I've seen crazier since, but it's in our neighborhood. It's quiet. It's
A lot of elderly.
yeah, a lot of elderly people, and there are some school age children. So during the day, it's quiet, but we don't. There's not much excitement going on in the neighborhood. So when something happens, it's all that
Shocking.
right? It's all anybody could pay attention to for a few days. Our neighbor up the street. I mean, this is like what, 6 blocks up the street. Our neighbor killed her boyfriend. You know, like in their 60s. You know, and we knew this couple. No, we didn't know them, but the neighborhood knew them as the crazy lady at that one house.
Yeah.
And so she killed her boyfriend, and that was shocking. Certainly, you know, it feels like, you ever seen that movie, The Burbs,
Yep.
with Tom Hanks? This neighborhood feels like that sometimes, even though, you know, so the upper middle class neighborhood is what that was. This is like a upper lower class neighborhood, I guess.
I don't know.
I
mean-
I wouldn't say it's lower class, but it's not upper
Yeah.
middle class
Most of the
either.
houses are very nice and yards, but then you got your onesies and twosies. You're like, man, what in the trailer park hell just moved into the neighborhood?
Right. And then they make their house look terrible.
Yeah.
And then you got the city coming in, condemning houses up the street that they're actually working on. That pisses me off. So they're working on this house, like, what is it, 3 doors down?
Yep.
and they're rehabbing it. They're putting lots of money in it, lots of work.
It's starting to look really, really good.
It looks great. The inside of it looks good. And the only reason I know this is because they had a whole side of the house taken off at one point. So
yeah, they like completely gutted it and started to redo it.
It's nice. And I drove by a couple weeks ago and there's a freaking red tag on it.
Well, that red tag's been on there for a couple months.
Right. And I have no idea. So I went up there and looked at it, and it was a cease work order, kind of like they didn't have permits to work on the building. And so the city shut them down. And I'm like, you're in it. You're telling me that they're trying to improve their house. They're trying to improve their living situation. And they don't have the, $20 to give you for your permit or whatever. And they've stopped work on that house. They haven't done anything since. So I'm going to guess there's more to it than that.
Well, and I think like the people that did live there, forever, like they completely moved out, and that somebody purchased the house,
sad.
Or maybe they had rented it or something. I don't know. And then somebody bought it and trying to.
They're just trying to improve the house, and the city came in and shut it down. And now look at it. It's
just an eyesore.
It is. It's not finished. It's not
on it.
Yeah. And I don't know why they did that. That pisses me off. They could have waited till they were done.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. We see that a lot in this city. We see a lot of stupid stuff like that happen. And usually, it's not, there are rules for a reason. There are rules. That house up there isn't the reason why those rules are in place. It's the people that don't get any permits at all for the work that they need to do. And maybe they were going to cheat on their taxes. So what? The county's losing out on $100 a year in taxes, because that's all it would have been. That they didn't change the house that much. So it went from being worth $40,000 to being worth $100,000, but that's not the way they assess taxes here. They go by the size of.
Probably our fault.
Why?
Because didn't the assessor come?
No, it was when that murder happened.
Oh yeah.
Because the county
right
assessor,
before Thanksgiving.
The first thing that happened was the county assessor came down and assessed the house. Like the tape was still up on the house, and the county assessor the county assessor came out and went from that house because that they had an outdoor.
A parking structure or something like that.
Yeah, and it was attached to the house. It was permanent.
Yeah.
What it was a carport, and they attached it to the house, sunk it down in the concrete, and made it permanent. And so since they done that, they wanted to raise their taxes 35 cents a freaking year. And so they got them on that. And then the county assessor just started going down through the rest of the damn neighborhood and red tagged that house down there. And that's when it happened. And I don't see any reason like it just blows my mind why that stuff happens, and this neighborhood, they're not getting much taxes out of this neighborhood.
But meanwhile, you got this house on the corner over here that looks like it's made out of plywood.
Yeah, it's falling in on itself. Yeah, it's fallen in on itself, and nobody cares about that. But
which I think, didn't somebody come down here one time and ask us if we knew anybody living there? And I think I told him, I said, I just see people come mow the grass and rake leaves.
When people show up at the house during the day, I kind of, it depends on the situation, but most of the time I try to piss them off intentionally so they don't come back. No soliciting, no trespassing. I don't like weird people being around. I don't like people trying to sell me shit. I got enough shit. I don't need any more of your junk. One time there was a guy that went viral, came to our door. He was a traveling salesman, and he sold cleaning chemicals, and he's just hilarious. And I let him come over and, speak his spiel because I'd seen him on the internet. I don't know if it's the same guy, but I thought it was. And I didn't buy anything from him because I didn't have any money, but he was hilarious, and he had a good spiel, and the product was decent. So I wanted to buy some, but I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Stuff like that happens. some of the craziest things that I've seen happen when you're with me. So, you know, except for the plane people walking down the street with it carrying an airplane, that was strange.
So, I mean, sometimes we have people wander out of the woods and we're like, where the hell did they come from?
Now, or you hear things on, yeah, I do see that too. I see people dragging their belongings down into the woods and then walking out all haggard and, homeless looking. And Caleb walked down there a few years ago and said there was some homeless people living in there. And so naturally I had to go down there and get them out of there. But, because that's kind of a strange thing to have homeless people living in the woods by your house in the middle of a city.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But we see all kinds of silly, stupid stuff. But I'd say the most stuff happens away from the house, a good couple miles away from the house.
Yeah.
We live close to a main thoroughfare through town. It goes from, we call it the Belt Highway. That's not its name, but it's name from one end of town to the other is the Belt Highway, and then it goes to a number. But we call it the Belt Highway, and it stretches from the south end of town to the north end of town on the east side of town. So we've got a main thoroughfare on the west side of town. We got a main thoroughfare on the east side of town. The Belt Highway runs, I don't know, it's not the middle, but it splits the city.
Yeah.
East and west. And so that main thoroughfare we call the Belt Highway, there's a lot of shit that happens on that road. Accidents, just random acts of violence happens on that highway.
Pedestrians
being
all the
hit,
time.
just races, all kinds of stuff happens. Arrests, police chases, all kinds of stuff happens on the Belt Highway. But usually we try to stay away from the Belt Highway because that's where I got into an accident, and it was a road rage accident I guess it was a couple months ago. Uh-huh. A lady had cut in front of me and trying to get me to hit her, and I had nowhere to go but the turning lane. So I took the turning lane. I had to get ahead of her, and there was traffic. So I was like, So I had to get back over and into that lane, and I had to hit my brakes, and then she ate my bumper. So she was trying to road rage and get me to hit her, and it didn't work out that way. And she hit me and didn't do any damage to either our vehicles. We pulled over and she was screaming at me at the top of her lungs. A couple weeks before that, we had a road rage shooting near our house. Was it like less than 5 miles away from our house? And at that moment, that's what I was thinking of, because another car pulled up beside us and it had a man in it. And she was screaming. He was screaming. I had a kid in the car. I called the police and I was like, can I leave? And they were like, yeah. So I just left, and insurance companies get involved, and
then she got on social media and lied, which I'm like, maybe you should get your story straight, because what you told the insurance company is different than what you're putting on social media.
She gave our insurance company one story, the police a different story, and then she didn't contact her insurance company at all. Mm-mm. And so I told our insurance company, I was like, I'm not worried about it. You guys can do whatever you need to do. I didn't have any damage to my car. There wasn't any damage to her car. Like, do whatever. It's still open. I don't think they're going to do anything with it, but
it's just like, okay, like it is what it is, but like get your story straight before you try to make yourself look like the victim.
The insurance company did an investigation, their own investigation, found me not at fault. The police did their own investigation, and as far as I know, it's not over yet, but I don't know how they could find me at fault because I didn't do anything. There was a road rage incident a couple of years ago, took off your driver's side door.
Yeah.
So.
And then you had to go find the guy yourself.
Yeah. I thought the guy wanted to talk to me, so I opened up the door, and then he sped around me and took off the damn door. And then he ran, And so I'd chase him down. And the cops told me I was wrong for that. But it was either that or just call my insurance company and tell them that I
And then
lost my
come to
door.
find out, like, he didn't have any insurance.
Yeah, he didn't have any insurance, and he lives. I know right where he lives.
Right next to your dad.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that I'm like, I see that car and I'm like, I could say something, but I'm not going to. I'm grown, Just leave it alone. Be the bigger person.
Right.
But so we see a lot of craziness in our neighborhood and outside of our neighborhood. But I like to watch the news also. When
You watch a lot of news.
I
Because you'll
haven't-
randomly text me in the middle of the day and be like, listen to this shit.
I haven't watched much news this month. I feel like I was talking to our buddy Lindley yesterday. I feel like I've been in my own little bubble for about a month. Just depression or, I don't know what it is. It just feels, it's hard to get going. It's hard to get motivated to do much of anything but this. I love this. But when it comes to working around the house, since that real bad cold snap happened, I haven't been able to really, I want to just take everything, throw it out the front door and start over is what I really want to do. But I think, once springtime comes.
Hey, that groundhog said early spring. So
Amen. Let's go.
I'm ready. I used to love winter, but now I'm like,
You said it on
nope.
I was re-listening to one of the podcasts we put out a few weeks ago. Hey, there's more.
Yeah, but I have to have creamer.
But I figure when spring comes, we'll get the house all cleaned out and cleaned up, be able to open everything up, get the smell out of here. No, it don't smell, but
The funk.
it's that wintertime funk. I think that's kind of how I'm feeling this month. But I was telling my buddy Lindley, I've been just feels like I've been kind of stuck in my own little bubble. And I'm trying to get out of it because there's a lot of stuff going on in the news right now. It's not that great. It's kind of scary, and sometimes I feel like World War III started last year. Anybody that knows anything about the world wars knows that this is exactly how they started, with destabilization all over the globe and everybody fighting each other. And that's exactly what's going on right now. 3 U.S. service members were killed in a drone attack in Jordan last week. And it happened this week for me, but I'm saying last week because by the time we publish this podcast, it will have been last week. So 3 U.S. service members were killed in a drone attack at a U.S. base in Jordan. And that doesn't happen often. The attacks, the drone attacks on U.S. bases are becoming more frequent here in the last year. And they don't often, get casualties. They don't all we've got stellar defenses across all our bases and stuff, but last week, three U.S. service members were killed, and in order, the military has to strike back when something like that happens, and it's not as cut and dry as just let it be and they'll calm down. No, they're going to hit harder, they're going to hit faster, and they're going to keep coming until you stop them. Retaliatory strikes started yesterday. The United States hit 85 targets within Iraq and Syria. And I feel it, I feel a big change coming in that direction. We just got out of a major war that lasted 20 years. Is another one on the horizon, for the United States? Are we going to war? Because that's scary, because I know a lot of kids that are military age, and my kids all have one disqualifying thing I guess not, my kids aren't dumb or anything, but they, the one kid that I think would be great at the military has some health issues and some mental health issues that he just couldn't join. But I worry about our kids, not our kids, but the United States, the kids of the United States. I worry about that stuff. They're young and they're dumb, and do we really want them to go to war for no reason? And this just feels like a religious war over, in Iraq, Iran, Syria, all those places, especially Israel and Gaza right now, that religion. And there's no other, there's it's just hard to talk about sometimes. And I'm not real educated on the things that are going on right now because I have kind of tuned out over the last month. But I want to get some guests in here and talk about it because it's interesting. It interests me. And hopefully we can make that happen soon.
Yeah. So if you'd like to come on and talk about it, hit us up.
I'd also like
because
to talk.
I'm not the greatest one to talk about that stuff because I have no idea. I don't really watch a whole lot of news.
You don't have time.
Yeah.
You don't have time. And I don't really have time to sit and watch the news either. It's just I have my phone with me everywhere. And so it's on YouTube or the news or, I'm always tuned into something, whether it be my favorite podcasters or UFOs. Been watching UFOs a lot,
I mean, they're coming out with a lot of UFO stuff and it's some weird shit.
It is some weird shit, but then you dive deep into other weird shit that has happened over the last 80 years, and then you don't know what to believe. You don't know if it's real, if it's fake. Why is the government just talking about it now? Do they need money? What do they want?
Yeah.
It's one of those things that you can't really believe until you see it, and then you see it according to the United States government and the Department of Defense and everybody, the ufologists and all that. When you see it, you don't believe it, so it's one of those, what's going on? We've seen a lot of videos of just weird things, and they tell us that's pretty calm and tame compared to what we've seen. And I saw a video of a sped up video of the lunar. Is that how you say it? Lunar lander. And it was sped up and it looked funny while it was moving. And I showed you that video, and Lou Elizondo, who is a contractor for the Department of Defense at one time, he came out and said, this is what those UAP look like when they're moving the UFOs.
Yeah, they're not sped up, right?
Right.
Like just at normal.
And inside our atmosphere, which should be impossible to move like that inside our atmosphere with no visible signs of propulsion, there's no flight surfaces on these things. I mean, you've seen just a steel, just looks like a steel ball floating through the air, not floating, flying. And then you see it and you're like, you don't see any engine exhaust. You don't see.
And every time I see it, I think of, the Jetsons noise, like.
That's funny. But what'd you think of that? What is it? The jellyfish UFO.
That's just weird. That is freaky? That is definitely some Predator
it's
type stuff, like the movie Predator.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I think of.
And you see that. And
what if right outside, like we're just walking by and like really we got this UFO just hanging out above us and we can't see it.
That's the thing about that jellyfish UFO is folks, if you haven't seen the jellyfish UFO,
Google it.
Jeremy Lockyer Corbell is the guy's name that released it, and he did it on TMZ, so it's also there. You can find the documentaries that it was on Tubi. TMZ, I forget what it was TMZ UFOs. So Google that and you'll find out the name, but it was on Tubi. 3-night event. We watched that. We were going to do big UFO show,
We gotta
on
get
podcast.
we gotta get me more educated on it. Like I'm just now getting into the UFOs because I'm like, this is real. I don't know if I necessarily believe in little green men, but
The more
I would have to see it to believe the little green men.
but the more
Mexico, their whole thing made me. Yeah, was it Mexico?
yeah, it was Mexico where they had them
had their
bodies
fake-
and then they're like,
fake aliens.
Yeah, that did more harm than good, I think. Even the guys that we pay attention to that were there, they're rolling their eyes while they're there on TV, and then you're like, well, that I can see you.
But they probably didn't care. They're probably like, what a waste of my time.
Ryan Graves, he actually said that. He's like, this is I was totally unprepared for that. Don't put me by those. And they showed that in the documentary on Tubi, that TMZ documentary. It's not the first one that TMZ has done. They also did a 60-minute long one a couple of years ago with Lou Elizondo and Chris Mellon and a few other DoD contractors.
Yeah. But like I like seeing the videos of the UFOs. Like that is
It's pretty
intriguing.
neat that even if it's not real, which I absolutely 100% believe that it's real, but the United States government platforms that they're using to show us these things are classified. And a lot of the videos that they've taken, they said, are off classified platforms and they can't show us because they are in places where they're not supposed to be, or they are doing things that they're not supposed to do, or the platform itself is classified. The camera itself is classified. There's all kinds of stuff like that the Department of Defense has came out and said, hey, in some of these cases, we are in spots where we're not supposed to be, and therefore we're not showing you shit. And I take that as, well, at least you're in places where you're not supposed to be. So, I mean, at least you do that much for us. CIA and all that, they do a great job. And the reason why I say that is because I know they're listening. But
Hi.
anyway, I watch the news and stuff like that. I try to keep up on that stuff and interesting stories, and not for the podcast, but for myself. And so
It all started with having to read those encyclopedias as punishment, right? That's when you became a lifelong learner of just
useless crap.
information. Yeah.
Well, I think, I don't know. I think about that sometimes, how people stop learning after a certain point. Like after high school, a lot of people stop learning because it's not cool to learn, but I love to learn for whatever reason. But it's just, I like to learn a certain way, and whether I see something interesting, so I got to do a deep dive research on it, and that happens a lot with a lot of subjects. And if you open up the browser on my phone, I got like 90 open tabs. And one of the things that I say to people when they go to use my phone is, don't close any of my tabs, because I've got some on there from 2 years ago that I'm still referencing back to, especially with like a podcast equipment and stuff. And so I'll tell them, don't close any of my tabs because I'm using those. But I got like 90 open tabs. And I do a lot of deep dives on, like, World War II is fascinating to me. It is absolutely fascinating to me. What led up to World War II. I mean, in my opinion, it's happening all over again. And there's nothing we can do to stop it because everybody's different. Everybody's opinion's different, and they all live different. So it is what it is. But so that's a day in the life of a stay-at-home dad. Pretty much it's scattered here, there, everywhere. I'm really busy most of the time. And on the weekends, that's when I try to.
Well, and probably on the weekends, like your normal routine is thrown off because everybody's home all day.
Yeah. And we've had personal conversations about that a few times. Like I've said in the past that, when I'm here, this is my house. But as soon as anybody comes in that door, it stops being my house and it becomes your house. I don't like that when that happens because I lose control of my things. I lose control of my space. And it feels like, and I'm saying it just feels this way. I'm not saying it's actually happening, but it feels like people systematically take things from me to see if they can.
I mean, I gave you some of your closet space back. I took a bunch of clothes out of there that I don't wear no more.
Well, I didn't notice. So you might want to say something next time.
I just thought it'd be a surprise.
But it's not just you. It's also the children, like Rocket.
How he's got 2 tablets going and the TV.
Yes.
And the bedroom TV sometimes.
Sometimes. And then
God forbid you shut one of them off.
And then I buy thousands of dollars worth of toys for myself and buy them toys, and then they take all my toys.
Yeah. Or one gets grounded to the front room, and then he takes the TV.
Yeah, but
and
that's
spends
okay.
12 hours a day watching Impractical Jokers.
Well, that's okay though, because it's been a good time actually.
You introduced him to Lewis Black, and now he's like into Lewis Black,
which is great because so me and Lewis Black have a lot in common. Like I was listening to his rants and I was like, that sounds just like me. Like that's just like me on a normal day. Like I'm ranting, raving, stark raving mad sometimes. Lewis Black reminds me a lot of myself and how I interact with others and, my use of profanity for exclamation, and he does that a lot. But I hope I live as long as his parents. Holy crap. His mom was 104 when she passed away,
Yeah.
And
his dad was 102,
something like that. That's kind of nuts.
Yeah, that's neat. I mean, I don't know if I'd want to live that long, but if I was healthy and
most of the time I do feel lucky to live the life I have. I feel blessed that I don't have to go to work and earn that money because, I'd much rather be doing that.
Well, and I was going to ask, you hear people a lot say, well, you're a stay-at-home parent. Like, you don't have to go out and work, but I'm like, would you rather?
Yeah, you get to go out and go to work. That's kind of how we have those conversations ourselves sometimes. You get to leave, your job. Not only do you get to leave home and go to your job, but at the end of the day, you get to leave your job. This is my job. I wake up here, I go to bed here, and most of the time it sucks, because nobody's looking out for me. I look out for myself, and it is what it is most of the time, but I feel lucky most of the time because we came to the realization a long time ago that if I was to go work, that my entire paycheck would be going to childcare.
Yep.
So there was no point in me working. I could only make so much money. I'm uneducated. I am skilled, but those skills can only take me so far in an entry position. So let's just say I started out at $18 an hour. Let's just start there for laborer. That's not bad wage. $18 an hour, my whole paycheck plus some would be going to childcare. And why? Why do that when I could just raise them myself?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and, daycare is so scary. You hear all the stories and.
Especially around here.
Well, and especially with Rocket and having autism, people wouldn't know exactly how to interact with him. He knows us. He's comfortable,
And him and I have that connection where, I already know what he wants before he says it. And sometimes I have to be reminded, hey, you need to make him talk.
Yeah, and I wouldn't want, if people were mean or rude to him, then I'd have to unleash a whole
Mama
other
bear.
side of
Mama bear.
Ashley that people don't see.
Yeah, you leave that for closed doors. But I feel really blessed most of the time. I wake up and I get to spend my days with my favorite people, and that's pretty neat. And I take it I take advantage of it a lot. I take it
Well,
for
I mean, at
granted.
the same time, I think that we take advantage of you too.
Yeah, but I'm quite capable of carrying a large load, and but every now and then I feel like I need somebody to take my load.
Yeah.
That didn't sound right. I,
Well, and I feel bad because like, especially if you're having an off day and I'm at work and you really need my help or it would benefit you to have somebody else there. And I'm like, yeah, there's sometimes I can just
yeah, there are
leave,
some
but
times
there's
where you can.
sometimes I
Yeah,
can't.
most of the time you can't. And there are some times where you're able to take off and come help. And those are the days I feel freaking terrible that you have to do that. It makes me feel hopeless and helpless at the same time because I'm a big boy. I can handle things on my own, but I've told you numerous times, and I don't know why it's like this, just having you close. Like I could be having, one time specifically I can think of is, my dad was in the hospital and he needed a bunch of stuff from his house. And I had to go do that, and I had a bunch of other things. Now this was a few years ago. I had a bunch of other things that I had to go do, and I was overwhelmed, and I was angry, I was upset. I called you, and I said, I'm freaking out. I need help, and I explained to you, it's nothing that I can't handle myself. It's just my brain's going 1,000 miles a minute, and I can't think. I need you to drive. I need you, and as soon as I saw you, as soon as you were in my eyesight, I felt better. And the only thing you did was sit in the passenger seat for the rest of the day and hung out with me while I did everything. And it wasn't like I needed you to do anything or I needed you to hold my hand while I did it. I don't know how to explain it.
I need to get you a Build-A-Bear with my voice in it. Be like, it's okay. Woosah.
Woosah. But most days, yeah. So I feel lucky and blessed that I get to stay home and hang out with my favorite people all the time. And I feel, I feel the only time I don't feel that way is when everybody's busy and I'm lonely. That happens sometimes, and I can't get anybody on the phone, can't get anybody to come over, and it sucks sometimes because even the people that aren't busy normally are busy on those days, inevitably, and I could call my friend, my buddy Lindley, I could give him a call and him and I talk for hours. But what if he's busy, and I could talk to my brother. Now he's busy all the time. He works from like, I don't know, sun up to, right now it's like sun up to sundown because sun goes down early, but I could talk to him for a couple hours, but he's busy all the time now. And so that leaves me with nobody to talk to but Rocket. And I like to joke sometimes, like, I tell you sometimes, like, all my friends live in my phone. It's because I'm watching podcasts or news or, that's what I mean by my friends all live on my phone. It's not that I have actual friends. It's just the media personalities that I watch. Sometimes they feel like friends, if that makes sense. Sometimes, like Joe Rogan, I feel like, he's on air a lot. So what we see is what we get. And so I feel like I know him. Like, not personally, but I feel like, he could be a friend.
Yeah.
I could be friends with Joe Rogan.
Well, in that one podcast you watch, you've actually interacted.
Oh yeah,
with
Julian Dory, the
well,
Julian
I was
Dory
thinking,
podcast.
That UFO podcast.
Oh, that UFO podcast. Oh, that podcast is.
And those are your friends across the pond.
Yes, I can speak with those guys, and I don't know them personally, but I can speak with them, and they actually know who I am. It's not like I'm known or I'm known to them as a friend, but I've made myself visible. Like a comment, like share, and
Try to help them out.
try to help them out in that way. I also pay them a monthly. I joined their channel, and I pay them a monthly fee to have access to extra content. That's pretty neat. And they do some Q&As on there and stuff. I really like that stuff. But I really like those guys because they are UFO fans like myself, and they don't know anything either. The guy that runs the podcast, his name is Andy, and he's Scottish, but he knows a lot of people, and he is a fantastic interviewer. I mean, fantastic. He can sit down with a person and not it, one of my favorite interviews that he did was with somebody that was very talkative, very busy. Stephen Bassett. One of their first interviews, like this guy kept going and he was talking and talking and talking, and it seemed like he was walking around and talking. And Andy would ask him a question and then listen for the response. And then on the response, he would ask another intelligent question from that response that he would, like he was paying attention, and you could tell he was paying it. You don't get that a lot.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy that podcast, and shout out to that UFO podcast over in the UK. They're pretty awesome. They gave me some, I had messaged and asked about, shirts because I wanted some shirts, but their sizes don't fit me. So I was like, hey, would it be possible to special order a shirt from you guys? And their producer gave me their logos and, said, here you go. We owe you a beer. I thought that was really nice.
Yeah. And we made the whole family shirts to wear to Universal Studios.
Universal Studios, Orlando, one of my favorite places.
So we could help promote their podcast.
We want to have a show about traveling, and so we're going to leave some of that stuff for that show. But Universal Studios, just so you all know, it's one of my favorite places in the whole world, and I like that place. I love that. We got season tickets last year, not last year, 2022. So we got season tickets in 2022, and we went twice.
Yep.
And had a blast. It was so much more fun than Disney, and it was hot. But anyway,
it was great.
So we've been talking here for a long time, and those of you that have listened this long,
we appreciate it.
We do appreciate it. We've got to do some more planning and getting together on. There's some shows that I want to have. We got some pretty good ones coming up. So this Monday, you'll have already seen this by the time we've released it, but we've got a guest coming on this week, and hopefully to have more guests soon. And I like the way that went. I had a good time with Jessica Barker. I was speaking about inspirations and stuff like that. And I want to have her on again. I also want to have her husband on. But there's a few friends that I'd like to have on just because they're interesting people. And I want to get into that eventually. I want to do a series on Made in America, the rise, fall, and resurgence of American manufacturing. I know a lot of makers, so I'd like to talk about that. I'd also like to talk about geopolitics a little bit.
Not with me.
I'm a geopolitical, I'm not a strategist or anything like that. I just find it interesting. So I want to talk about geopolitics with a few of my friends. And I'm currently looking for World War historians. Any of my friends know anything about, and when I say friends, I know that I'm among the most interesting of my friends as far as knowledge of different things goes. But if any of my friends are like World War historians or anything like that, I'd like to get into that a little bit And
Or if they just like to talk about world wars.
yeah, let's get into it and let's discuss some of these things because I feel like we're going through some troubling times again, and we might have to get prepared for some of that stuff to come to the homeland. The Texas border crisis is really getting to me. I'd really like to have somebody on the show that would talk about that. So any of my friends, anybody listening out there want to come on and talk about the Texas border crisis, World War I, World War II, anything really. I'm open to anything. I love talking geopolitics. I love talking other cultures. I love talking about the war machine that is the Department of Defense. I love talking about that kind of stuff.
UFOs.
UFOs. I want to talk about UFOs with you, though. I want to talk about UFOs with you first because a lot of my other friends are just like, yeah, UFOs. Yeah. So it's all normal to us. Like, yeah, I believe that kind of stuff, and then we can talk about it for a little bit, but they're not blown away by some of the things that they see because they've seen them all, Just want to thank everybody for hanging with us this long. And this has kind of been one of those laid back shows where we didn't really do a whole lot of planning on this one because you wanted to talk to me about what my day was like as a stay-at-home dad, which is kind of boring most of the time. But I enjoy being a stay-at-home dad. There's no other rewarding.
And just because it's boring doesn't mean you have all the time in the world for
everyone. We've gotten into that a few times.
I just want to put that out there.
We've gotten into that a few times on the show where a lot of people think just because I don't work, I have a lot of time.
Yeah.
And that is not the case. I have no time. Like my time, like Rocket is a full-time job. He is 4 and he'll be 5, in a couple months. But he's a full-time job. Keeping up with that kid is a lot, and he's on the go from the time he wakes up till the time he goes to bed.
It's like walking feet, Daddy. Walking feet.
And he's my best friend, and we have the time of our lives every day. And so not only do I have that, but I also have to get you to and from work. You don't have just one job. You have 2 jobs that you go to every day. So I have to get you to and from work. We only have 1 car. And so I got that. I've got 2 kids in school right now. I've got 1 kid that lives here, but we never see him, and then of course we got the oldest with a grandbaby on the way. And so I love talking about my excitement when it comes to the grandbaby. I'm real excited. I don't know why. I'm not even 40 yet. Going to be a grandpa. I'm really excited about it.
Well, I was thinking about that yesterday. I heard somebody talking about how their husband, their grandkids call him Pop Pop. And he really likes it because it's easy. Pop Pop.
Yeah. I don't know what my grandkids are going to call me, but we're going to try to get them to call me Peepaw because it's funny. Peepaw. But they can call me whatever they want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Word.
But we spoke about in the past about not having a whole lot of time. I get up in the morning, take you and the kid to school, come home and play patty cake with the youngest one for a couple hours, get him off to school. I work for a couple hours and then at in the late afternoons, we all get together here at the house for a couple hours and spend some time together, and then it's back to work. And when we get back from work, it's dinner time, because I go with you and I help at your second job, and which is allowed at her second job. It's not like, I've got security clearances, so by the time we get done with that, it's dinner time. By the time dinner's over, it's time to wind down for an hour or so, and then we go to bed, wake up, and do it all over again, which is boring.
I think people call that grinding.
Yeah.
We're grinding.
You're grinding. I'm not. It feels like I'm spinning my wheels sometimes. Like I tell a lot of people, it's a this business that we're in right now is a lot of hurry up and wait. A lot of hurry up, get there to the finish line, and then you just go wait. It's okay. Like I like having a schedule that we release these things on, but sometimes it just make me feel better if we just publish them when they're done, but because we got a couple shows stacked up for you guys.
Well, I think we have a few listeners that like look forward to those dates. They know we're going to release it. They know what time it is. And so they're.
And some of those people I want to have on the show. Like I would love to have your sister-in-law on the show.
Yeah.
She's pretty awesome. And I like talking to her, and she's creative, very creative, more creative than I am. And I'm pretty darn creative. I can't draw to save my life, but I love to draw. I love to doodle. I can't sing. I can't carry a tune in a bucket, but I love to sing. And I love to sing to everybody. Like, in the shower, I sing to the whole house, and most of the time I try to do it just to be funny, but sometimes I come out and y'all aren't laughing. So.
And what I like to do is and Sully hates it, is that he'll say a word and then I can take any word he says and think of a song that word's in. And he was like, oh my God, why do you always do that? It's like, just to annoy you.
But so this has been coffee talk.
Yeah, and I'm just going to be honest over here. I'm dying with this black coffee.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Got dry mouth. I need some creamer.
If you got dry mouth, just take another drink.
Yeah, it's
wet.
Woo.
It's wet.
It's rough.
I
feel like I'm sitting in Billy Kay's kitchen right now.
Yeah. I miss my mom. That's one of those things that my grandpa did with my mom all the time, was he went to her house and had coffee all the time. Like, not every morning, but you could guarantee at 7:00 in the morning, if there was a knock on the door, it was my grandpa, and he was coming in to have coffee. So, and your family get together every Sunday.
Well, I think it was Saturday and Sundays. They would go to my grandma's house.
I can't. I love my family. I love my extended family. I just can't be around them all that long. My oldest sister, she lives in Tennessee. I think I could probably get together with her and her husband every week. And I take that back. I think I could do it with all my siblings, but just my siblings, not go any farther up the family tree than that, because my siblings, I love all my siblings and they love me. So I can handle that every week. Don't think I can handle much of my other family members every week without fail. But drinking coffee, I'd have to make fun of the way my brother drinks his coffee, because
it's a little bit of coffee with a whole lot of creamer.
Yeah. And he thinks that's just hilarious. I think it's weird myself, but so I ask him that sometimes. I'm like, hey, do you like a little coffee in that?
I think my thing is just the color. Not necessarily the taste. I mean, if this was a little more blonde.
Yeah.
I would feel mentally, dark. I would feel different about it. I'd be like, oh, it tastes different, even though it was just a blonde coffee.
Right.
So.
I don't know. I like it dark and black.
It's like motor oil.
Yeah. Oh. Grow hair on your chest. Well, you don't need any hair on your chest. I'd like to have my sister's husband, James, on the podcast. And the reason why...
That'd be a great podcast.
He's one of my best friends, and I
should say great show. This is a podcast. It'd be a great show.
Yeah. I feel like, so my brother-in-law is one of my best friends. I feel like if him and I lived closer together, him and I would be closer than me and my sister are. We'd be inseparable, because he's friggin' awesome. He's a former police officer. He's got that cop gene. You just look at him as, that guy's a cop. He's not anymore. He's an HVAC guy, but he's pretty awesome at that too. And I just like to talk to him. It's fascinating. You know, I bet he's got a lot of fascinating stories. Did you know he was a police officer in Memphis? Wow. Like, I bet he's got a lot of cool stories. And I'm going to talk to him about those cool stories. I want to talk to him about the HVAC game. I want to talk to him about life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. I want to get back to that. With this show, the idea when I first started was I want to talk about our lives, you know, not just our lives. I want to talk about interesting shit, interesting people, life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. That's really what it's all about, folks. Life, love, and the pursuit of happiness. I want you to think about that, Ashley. I want you to think about for next week's show, the pursuit of happiness and what that means to you. I know what it means to me. What does it mean to you guys? What does it mean to you? We'll talk about it next week. We'll talk about the pursuit of happiness, life, love, the pursuit of happiness. And with that, we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Well, here.
Here, you want me to pour it? That's good. That's good.
I forgot what I was saying. It's not bad now that I've had a whole cup of it. You could leave that in. You could put that in the end somewhere.